Hi, welcome back. My name's Cass and this is Everyday Cass. My husband has been nagging me a little bit gently to make my homemade crackers. And if you're like me and you love to snack, but I'm trying to be healthier and also I'm 100% gluten-free, a lot of the snacks you can buy are either not very good or ridiculously expensive. So here is my honestly mouth-wateringly crave-worthy cracker recipe that even my non-gluten-free husband loves. Oh, and by the way, these crackers are not just so delicious, you can whip them up like that. They're so easy. Even someone that's like intimidated like I was to make your own crackers at home, don't be intimidated. They're that easy. Anyone can do them. They're really easy. So let's get going. Down below in the description box will be the recipe, so don't worry about writing anything down. It will be there for you, as well as I'll be putting it on my website, so I'll have a link to that below as well. So first things first, I'll tell you what we're gonna need. Some salt, Maldon salt, the best, worth it. This is my gluten-free buckwheat flour that I just put into these are old pickle jars, and this is an old jam lid. And then almond flour. This is a brand new bag, so I haven't put it in a jar yet, but here's the almond flour. Other ingredient that I love to add is some nutritional yeast. This one in particular is really high in B12, which I think we're all a little bit deprived of, so I love, whenever I can, to add a little bit of nutritional yeast with the B12 in it, or just B12 in general. A little bit of garlic powder. Honestly, we're good to go. Okay, so just starting with our measurements. I'm gonna do 1 cup, roughly. None of this has to be exact, the beauty of this recipe. 1 cup buckwheat flour. And I am making a large batch of crackers, so you can do half of this if you want a smaller batch. But I have a hungry husband, so and 1 cup almond flour, roughly again, doesn't have to be exact. I'm gonna add that to my bowl. And then we're gonna do 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. Again, this is rough. Perfect. Add that in as well. I usually eyeball this, and it depends on how garlicky you like things. If you like to basically not barely even taste the garlic, then I would say half a teaspoon. But I like a little bit of that garlic taste, so I do a whole tablespoon or so. A little bit extra. Salt, so you want to do 2.5 generous pinches. So that would probably be about 1 to 2 teaspoons. Next on the list, one thing I forgot to mention is you want to get a nice extra virgin olive oil. In this recipe, about 1/4 cup olive oil. That's a little bit too much, so I'm not going to pour all this in. Okay, now leave some of it because you're going to want to put it on top of the crackers. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a light little mix. It won't really mix that much. And then we're going to add water. Now I'm not going to give exact measurements to the water because every time I make them, I add a different amount. I'm gonna go more off of texture, and I'll show you what I mean. See how it's a bit crumbly still? We want just a little bit more water, but not much, to be fair. Probably about like that. Now this is why we keep our flour next to us, because you are going to want to incorporate more flour. Don't ask me, but it actually makes a difference to do this step first and then reintroduce the flour afterwards. For whatever reason, it's a lighter, crispier, snappier cracker. So next step is, right now the dough is quite wet, as you can see. It's sticking to my hands a little bit, but the olive oil in there really does help. I'm going to lightly, that's not that light. I'm gonna put some flour on the kitchen counter here. Okay, now for the fun bit. You're gonna wanna reincorporate this flour into the dough until you don't want the dough to be too wet. You don't want it to really stick to your hands. And the thing is, you really do have to knead it a decent amount, because every time, it's something about almond flour. I know it's a nut, but I feel like there is quite a lot of moisture in it. And as you need more and more of that moisture kind of comes out, you can see it starting to stick a little bit. So we're gonna get a little bit more. And if I had to make an estimate amount, I'm probably putting as much as a half a cup more of flour into the dough. And that's the thing about most of these types of recipes. It's about feeling. It's about how the dough feels in your hands. So I remember I used to always ask my grandmother recipes, and she would just be like, I don't have them. It's how it feels. And it was so frustrating, and I didn't understand at the time, but as I've gotten older, I really do understand what she means. I hardly ever use a recipe. I just go off of how it feels. Okay, that's pretty good. It's starting to it's still like a bit sticky. It's dough, like, it actually, do you know what it feels like? It feels like Play-Doh almost, just a tiny bit stickier than Play-Doh. Listen, it doesn't have to look pretty. They will turn out beautiful, I promise. As well as a sheet of parchment paper. I have already cut a sheet out. Get my dough side. There we go. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that flour, and you're just gonna sprinkle a little bit on there. So we're gonna cut a little chunk off. I'm just gonna do this amount first, see how that goes. This is probably too much, because we do want a relatively thin cracker. We want it to snap. And once you feel like it's sticking a little bit, you just add a little bit more of the flour. This dough is so forgiving. I've never made a bad cracker from this recipe. Okay, next step. Don't forget to do it. So we're gonna poke a bunch of holes in it, and we're not gonna be like super... I see some people's homemade crackers on YouTube where they take a chopstick and they individually poke a hole in each cracker. I don't have time for that. And it's not necessary. This works perfectly fine. That was really therapeutic, to be honest. Okay, next we're going to place it. Look, it's like torn here a little bit. Who cares? Oh, sorry, I can't see that. Okay, next I'm gonna place it on my baking tray. There it is. If you see a little bit of that's all going to be fine. A little bit of flour there, it's all gonna be fine. Next, whoop. Pizza cutter. Easy, easy peasy. We're not making a big deal about it, okay? It just is what it is. Whatever. Oops, see, a little mistake, there we go. We're gonna make it work, whatever size, shape. Okay, a little drizzle, just a tiny bit more of that olive oil. Usually, to be honest, I usually do the olive oil before I cut it. I just forgot. So it makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so everything is done, and I must say, it looks amazing. This is going to be a little late lunch. And the crackers, they turned out so well. A lot of the homemade gluten-free crackers have like a really hard kind of texture sometimes, and these ones just gently snap and almost dissolve in your mouth. They had a little bit of a cheesy taste to them because of the nutritional yeast, and a nice saltiness as well. It's not overpowering, just all around wonderful, wonderful cracker. So get inspired, go make yourself some homemade crackers, and then whip up anything you have in the fridge and have fun with it. Take care, bye!